Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a strange one, right? I've made some compositions before this, so I can prepare the video in the sequence that I need. I'm going to talk about William Lane Craig, and he's going to talk about mytho-history, right? Mythology with history. And I'm going to put two videos side by side with some text that I've done beforehand, and I'm going to react to it to see what this idiot is saying. Okay, let's go to the presentation area. William Lane Craig. Let's go.
Mytho-history is the name of a peculiar genre of ancient literature that was identified by the great Assyriologist Thorkild Jakobsen. Jakobsen, in analyzing a piece of Mesopotamian literature that he called the Eridu Genesis. Eridu was a Babylonian.
So basically what William is saying is that this guy, Tolkien, was looking to some text, right, and he noticed a pattern, right, that in Mesopotamia, right, back in yonks ago, yeah, and from the Babylonians, that fucking far back, right, and the issue is that he was noticing that the text contain myths, right, extra things basically, right, that are not real. Okay, so the clash here, or the issue here, is that people that wrote at that time were writing fiction together with history. The history can, for example, an example of history could be New York State, and the fiction will be Spider-Man, just for argument's sake, right? So he found that some texts mixed those two together. And the problem that William Lane Craig is having nowadays, in my opinion, is that he's running out of excuses, right? He's running out totally of excuses, and now he has borrowed from him, okay? And he's trying to spin it his way. You will see.
Babylonian city, said that this narrative combines mythological.
This narrative, think about the way he's saying narrative. Basically, the text that whoever found it, narrative, story,
motifs that were current in ancient Mesopotamia,
fine,
along with a historical interest, as it narrates the succession of Sumerian kings and the dates of their reigns.
So you have some kings, right, and some history behind it, okay? But they're probably saying that we're flying like Superman, right? That's the myth side of it. Or they were riding with a winged horse, right? Things like that, right? So you not tend to trust that information. And it's very important what he's saying later, William Lane Craig, because he's gonna translate that to the Bible, which is freaking mental.
And this fusion or combination of mythology and history, Thorkild Jakobsen called mytho-history. And quite a number of Old Testament scholars have picked up on this.
He's talking about basically nowadays scholars.
And said that this is what we have in Genesis 1-11.
Well, he just destroyed Christianity, in essence. Because if the historians, right, is saying the Genesis account from 1 to 11 has got myth in it, listen carefully. If it's got any myth whatsoever, right, he's going to call it mytho-history. But the problem about that in the Christian side of it is that what part is myth. So he's going to write 10, 15 books now for the next 15 years, talking about cherry picking, like most scholars do, right? Cherry picking an argument and make it their own, right? And he's going to do exactly the same because he's run out of excuses because we debunked. Well, we know the atheist community has debunked everything that he has said, and he wants something new. But this is worse, right? This is worse. This mytho-history is the coup de grace for Christianity, or for Judaism, for that matter, because the bullshit that he's saying about Genesis is not a Christian event per se, right? Although Christianity is stealing that argument from Judaism, which they're fucking thieves anyway, right? But still, William Lane Craig has put the nail in the coffin to Judeo-Christian belief system. So for that, we thank you. Sincerely, we thank you, sir. Doesn't matter how you spin it. You just put a little bit of myth in the Bible and you're screwed.
We have a historical account of the pre-patriarchal heroes such as Adam and Enoch and Noah.
Yeah, but you may have characters. Even if we entertain, which we don't, but even if we entertain the characters, the mythological spin defeats the truthness of the natural world, right? What are you going to say, that they flew around the planet 3 times? All those characters, do you understand? It's a defeater.
And others. But these narratives are clothed with the garb.
So he's actually admitting that the Old Testament, right, composing from Adam and Eve, for that matter, right, Enoch and Noah, so the whole shebang, right, he is saying that it's laced with myth, with bullshit. Thank you, William Lane Craig. We do really appreciate your honesty.
Of the figurative and metaphorical language of myth, and therefore shouldn't be pressed for a sort of literal interpretation that would be foreign to this type of literature.
It's not this type of literature, it's the actual freaking Bible, right? If you call the literature of the Bible Mytho-History, which is another invention that you want to pull, fine, okay? But you know that you're doing some serious damage, some serious, huge damage. But I'm going to show here that you got double standards. All preachers, yeah, all theologians, right? All historians that go towards that claim that the Bible is true, right? They're applying double standards. And in this case, I'm going to prove that he's using double standards. So he's all over the place, right? So he doesn't want to say no, but he's saying yes.
So that's what's meant by mytho-history, and how it is a very, very important issue for the interpretation of these first few chapters of the Old Testament.
And I think for the interpretation, can you imagine? So everybody, or him, William Lane Craig, he's going to be a contemporaneous, our new era of scholarly people that will interpret the Bible or the first chapters of Genesis from 1 to 11 or whatever, right? And the genre is mytho-history, which is bullshit history, made up history. So thank you. We do really, again, I'm saying, yeah, I'm repeating myself, but thank you. This is going to be the second video that I've done some special effects.
So my question was that in understanding.
Now this is later, and the presenter is saying to him, after we accepted, what's happening next. Watch this.
Understanding now Genesis 1 through 11 as mytho-history, how would you see that impacting our understanding of the relationship between science and religion? So it sounds like that the sort of focus on solely on those theological truths.
Yeah. Theological truths. What the fuck is that? Right? Theological truth is not a truth. It's a claim. Truth is what comports with reality. Can you make it so? If so, fine. If not, it's not true. Now, theological true, you mean bullshitting people? Fine, right? But don't claim it as true in the real world.
To sort of lend support to Stephen Jay Gould's idea of non-overlapping magisteria.
We'll get into this a lot more in the second half of the book.
See, the second half of the book, I hope he's mentioning that he's going to write a book, and the second half is going to say his bullshit story.
Okay.
And I hope you've noticed that at no point have I tried to draw in modern science to guide our interpretation of Genesis 1 to 11.
Right. Now, this is to establish that he's not going to use science. Fine. Okay? Okay. You cannot use science because it's full of bullshit, right? But he's establishing that he's not going to use science. Remember that, yeah?
This whole study so far has been based on a hermeneutical analysis of the literary types involved. And I think what this means is that it leaves us able to follow the scientific
Oh, hold on.
evidence where it leads.
No, you can't. No, you cannot. Because what you're saying, because that's double standards by definition. You're saying that you're not going to interpret the Bible scientifically, and then you're going to say, oh, but let's follow the evidence using science, whatever that leads. What are you talking about?
Given that this is a mytho-history, I don't think we can calculate when the world began to exist.
You mean, what you're saying is, because people invented stuff in the past, wrote it down somehow, yeah, via fucking chiseling into the world, into mud or whatever, right? You don't know what part is fiction and what part is history or real, right? So it is up to you to make it up. And when you cannot make it up, it says, oh, excuse me, science, can you do me a favor? Can you find out for me what is real? I.e. the age of the freaking planet or the age of the universe, like what this plunk is going to say.
Based on this tiny little mytho-history. Instead, I think we need to turn to modern science.
Right, now why you have to turn to modern science when you're actually negating science in the first place? Double standards.
To tell us when the world began to exist and when mankind began to exist
on what?
On this planet.
Right, on this planet. But listen carefully to what you just said. So you are relying on the scientific method and you are actually acknowledging that the Bible doesn't know when it started, or the information in there is not reliable. Are you saying, excuse me, science, can you find out for me the age of the universe and the age of the planet? Okay, well, we know it. Okay, and it's in billions of years. If that is the case, you either cannot accept the Young Earth Creation version, which is the actual version of the Bible, made in X amount of days, less than a week, it made everything, right? So it is incompatible. So you can, for you to amalgamate that, you have to adopt a double standard, be dishonest, basically, right? You say, I need to know. The problem with you, William Lane Craig, is that you're intelligent, right? And the problem is that you think, not like that silly idiot Ken Ham, right? He's your arch enemy right now, okay? He's very worried, right, that your mytho-history will stop people coming to the Ark counter. And the reason is because you're saying that there is no Young Earth creation by default, right? Because it's mytho-history, it's belief, it is invention, right? That's how damning it is, right? But this is for your benefit, right? Because you are selfish in that sense. Screw the rest of the Christians, right? Especially Christian leaders, right? And extremely damaging information.
And so it is with this genre analysis in mind that in the second half of the book, I feel free then to turn to what modern science has to teach us about the date of human origins.
But you can't. So in the second book, so you're going to write a book saying the first part is Mytho-History, right, which is bullshit with history, and then in the second part you're going to be more flexible, more honest, right, and say and rely on science that says at the end of the day, nah, fuck it, the book is full of shit, right? It's unreliable for dating. But the problem that carries with you guys, Christians or religious people in general, right, is that you make the book untrustworthy, unreliable, not truthful, right? So that means it's errant, absolute fucking errant. Mytho-History is inherently errant, right? Because it's made up stuff. So the literalist people like Ken Ham will say no, everything in the Bible is true, right? Myth cannot be with Young Earth Creationists, right? It's an incompatibility, right? But you saying let's rely on the scientists and let's see how old the universe. 14.x amount of billion years old, right? You just destroyed the fucking Bible. Right, because 6 days is not equal. Because Ken Ham has got a really, really fucking big problem in amalgamating or trying to unify 6 days between 14.7 or 14.8 billion years, right? Which is impossible. No young Earth creationer can do that, right? And you actually are helping our case by selfishly promoting a new version of what is written in the Bible for your own benefit. Okay, greed amongst theologians is good for us, right? Because you want to choose your own version, right? And create. You basically what you're doing is putting wood on the fire. Yeah, being controversial, right? It is healthy, but damaging for your cause, because it makes your book not real by definition.
Right, but as far as sort of the overlap between science and sort of claims of science,
I do think they overlap. I don't agree with.
It's not just overlapping, right? Overlapping like that, but it just passed them long time ago, right? So overlapping technically, no.
Fooled in that respect. I think that there are certain claims, particularly historical claims, that Christianity makes that we should affirm.
Right. This is what he's saying. Christianity, which is a fake fucking religion, because is stealing from the Old Testament, right? All the information that he's saying in Genesis is Jewish, the Jewish Bible, right? So in essence, Christians should not talk about the fucking Bible because it is somebody else's Bible. Simple.
And I would say, for example, Genesis teaching of the beginning of the universe and creation by God is something that should be affirmed.
Right, should be affirmed, right? You just contradicted yourself. That's why I left the text to the very end. We had to turn to modern science to tell us when the world began to exist, obviously, right? And then by consequences, the human species, right? What is it? Are you relying on the Bible to tell you what your imaginary friend said? Or what you're saying with your own words, with your own mouth, you're saying rely on the scientific, on science, right? You are contradicting yourself, my man. Big time, right? Absolute freaking double standard, right? And I don't know if you realize the damaging that you're doing, right? So I'm going to stop this part. I'm going to show the Ken Ham side of it, because this guy, Ken Ham, it's not a video, it's just his website, Answers in Genesis. He's pissed with this guy, right? So let me blank this and pop up the browser. Oh, because I got to minimize. There you are. Right. So here you can see my mouse. Yes, you can. Right. It's saying William Lane Crane Mytho-History versus historical Genesis. Historical. That's fucking hilarious. Right. So here there is absolutely no basis, which is there's absolutely no basis in scriptures for saying that Genesis 1 to 11 is mythical in any sense. Of course, it's not going to fucking say that, right? The myth is the story. They don't say it's mythological, right? The writers write in a way where you can say he flew with a fucking elephant, right? That is myth, right? It doesn't have to say it. So Ken Ham is acting ignorantly in this sense, right? In any sense, Jesus and all the this is another funny thing. Jesus and all the New Testament writers, right? Well, first of all, you don't know who the fucking writers were in the first place, so they took it. But Jesus, right? First of all, this character Jesus was a Jew, not a Christian, a Jew, relaying Jewish law, right? It's as simple. So whatever they were saying, they were just confirming what was said in the past, regardless if it's myth or not, right? I mean, who's going to entertain that a bush talks or a snake talk, right? That's myth. That's made up shit, right? Or somebody's been swallowed by a freaking whale, right? And be alive for X amount of time. Yeah, and then regurgitated. I mean, what's the fucking point? Yeah, not that it's true, but you know what I mean? It's stupid. So I'm not going to go through it, but this is what this guy Ken Ham is well pissed. Yeah. So look at that. Why it is any more difficult or unreasonable to believe that God created Adam and Eve? Because it's fucking fiction. What are you talking about? Yeah, and then you embellish the character, right? With an animal talking to those two parties on the history. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here because enough bullshit, right? For one day. So we have to say from all the atheists, right, that I represent, right? We sincerely thank you for bringing back a new terminology that actually destroys Christianity and even Judaism for that matter, right? And Islam, right? Everything, you actually destroy everything with a myth, fact, right? Because even Muslims rely on Jesus. But if everything was mythological, then there was no reason for the guy to die, let alone resuscitate, right? Or raise from the dead, or whatever they want to call it. So yes, let me change back. William Lane Gray, you're the man. Thank you.